This is a world gone mad. This is a world gone mad. Mad.
This is A World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. Another Monday Fallout, where the weekend's lies meet Monday's reality. December 1st, 2025. Welcome to December. All right, let's talk about what happened in the last 48 hours. No BS, no spin, no fake talking points. This is going to be a longer episode, everyone. So if you're jogging, do a longer jog. If you're at home, get a big snack and a drink, okay? Here we go. Former Trump personal lawyer Alina Habba is unlawfully serving as the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey on appeals court rules. This is the part of the movie where the audience looks around and says, are we all seeing the same thing? Or did somebody slip something into the mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving? A federal appeals court just ruled that Alina Habba, the woman who made a whole second career out of losing cases for Donald Trump, has somehow been functioning as the top federal prosecutor for the entire state of New Jersey. Not legally, not properly appointed, just kind of showing up and doing the job. It's like she wandered in, found a badge on a desk, tried it on, and the government said, sure, that looks fine. The same Alina Habba who went on television bragging about evidence that never existed. The same Alina Habba who kept getting smacked around in court for filings that looked like they were drafted during a Red Bull crash. And now she's running an entire United States Attorney's Office. Not as a joke, not as a dare, actually doing it. And here's the part that connects the whole circus. This comes right after the Supreme Court ruled that Lindsay Halligan was also illegally installed. We talked about a few episodes back. 2 for 2, back-to-back, top 2 federal prosecutors tied to Trump, both declared unlawful appointments. This isn't a coincidence. This is a pattern. This is a presidential administration treating federal law enforcement like a personal staffing agency. Hey, if you ever went on television and said something nice about Trump, congratulations, you now run a United States Attorney's Office. The Halligan ruling already set off alarms because it meant every case she touched was legally tainted. Now the Habba ruling drops, and suddenly half the Eastern Seaboard is wondering if their federal prosecutions were handled by people who legally have the authority of a mall security guard. Imagine being a real prosecutor in New Jersey who trained for years, passed the bar, worked violent crime, financial crime, all the big stuff, and suddenly your new boss is Alina Habba, the woman famous for losing cases on television with the confidence of someone who absolutely shouldn't have that confidence. The court basically said none of this was legal. Everything she did is now in question. Every indictment, every decision, every investigation, it's like putting a blindfold on someone, spinning them around 10 times, handing them the controls of a jumbo jet, and then acting surprised when it nosedives into the tarmac. And the administration pretends this is normal. They look into the camera, say everything's fine, everything's routine, nothing to see here. Which is exactly what you'd say when everything's absolutely not fine and you're hoping the public's too tired from Thanksgiving leftovers to notice that the 2 of your top federal prosecutors were illegally installed. This is what happens when Donald Trump treats government like a personal clubhouse. You don't pick qualified prosecutors. You pick the people who said the nicest things about you on cable news. You pick the people who defended you. You pick your own legal entourage. And then you hand them the keys to federal law enforcement like you're tossing someone the remote control. 2 rulings from the courts in 2 weeks, Halligan and now Habba. 2 separate courts looking at 2 Trump-installed prosecutors from years ago and saying the same thing. None of this was legal. None of this was valid. These appointments were unlawful from the start. What's next? The White House landscaper? running the FBI? The guy who changes the toner in the West Wing printer, taking over Homeland Security? At this rate, Trump will appoint his dentist to the Supreme Court because at least the dentist once said something flattering about Donald's smile. This isn't a glitch. This is the system under Trump. Loyalty over law, chaos over competence, and you wonder why the courts are now stepping in like exhausted parents saying, enough. Stop touching the stove. We told you this was illegal. Moving through the circus tent. Lawmakers are calling for a probe of alleged orders by Pete Hegseth to kill survivors of a U.S. strike on a drug smuggling boat, raising questions of war crimes. Hopefully a lot of you saw this. Let me tell you something. When you read a headline like this, you stop chewing your food. The room goes quiet. Your brain freezes because this isn't politics. This isn't left versus right. This is something ancient and primal inside you saying, what the hell did I just read? We're talking about a sitting cabinet member, the Secretary of Defense, allegedly giving an order to kill survivors of a U.S. military strike. Survivors. Not armed fighters, not combatants shooting back, human beings floating in the water after an attack and an explosion. And the allegation is that Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, told U.S. forces to go back and finish them off. Supposedly, kill everyone. That isn't tough on crime. That isn't securing the border. That's straight up war criminal territory. That's the stuff dictators do when they want to send a message, leave no witnesses. And now lawmakers are calling for a probe. A probe? As if this is a parking ticket dispute. As if the question here is whether someone filed the wrong form. No, this isn't a paperwork problem. This is a moral catastrophe. This is a do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to The Hague kind of headline. Imagine being the service members who got this alleged order. You sign up to defend the country. You train for combat. You train for danger. You don't train for murdering people who are already dying in the water. You don't sign up to be the trigger finger for some cable news tough guy like Hegseth who thinks war crimes are a branding opportunity. And if this order was actually given, imagine the psychological scar of that. Imagine carrying that for the rest of your life because your boss, Hegseth, wanted to look like a badass on television. And the White House wants us to believe everything's normal. They want us to think this is just another day in the administration. Little paperwork, little policy, a little alleged extrajudicial murder. They stand in front of cameras with their practice faces and say this under review. This is under review? Damn it, if the allegations is true, it's not under review, it's under arrest. This is the part where every American should stop and ask how far we're going to let this slide. How numb have we become that the words alleged order to kill survivors can flash across a screen and people shrug? This isn't patriotism. This isn't partisan. This isn't ideological. This is human. It's wrong at a level that doesn't need debate. If this happened, it's evil. Full stop. And the idea that someone in the United States government would use the immense power of the U.S. military to commit something that even the most hardened generals in history would call barbaric should make every person in this country furious. If this allegation is true, this isn't just a scandal. This isn't even just a crime. This is a betrayal of the uniform, a betrayal of the country, a betrayal of every moral boundary civilized nations are supposed to honor, even in war. And if proven true, Pete Hegseth shouldn't just lose his job. He should lose his passport, his freedom, and his ability to ever speak about patriotism again. And the circus continues. Trump's threats bring war with Venezuela closer as contradictions and legal fears mount. Now there's a moment where you read the news and think, wow, we're actually doing it. We've speed running the greatest hits of every corrupt empire from the past 500 years. We're threatening war with Venezuela, a country sitting on one of the largest oil reserves on the planet. And we're supposed to pretend we don't see the neon sign blinking above Trump's head saying, "Puppet government for sale, inquire within." Trump is out there rattling sabers like a man who just discovered military power louder than all his lawsuits combined. He's threatening force, hinting at intervention, talking about Maduro like he's picking out drapes for a country he's already planning to rearrange. And while Trump runs his mouth, U.S. Navy ships are already parked off that coastline, close enough that one stupid order can ignite an actual shooting conflict. And all the contradictions start flying. One day Donald says he respects sovereignty. The next day Donald's basically auditioning to be a colonial governor from the 1800s. And the legal fears start piling up as you can't threaten war as a distraction from your criminal exposure. You can't use the United States military as your personal legal pressure washer. But here's the real kicker, listeners. You dig 1 inch below the surface, what do you find? Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Not second, not top 5, number 1, more than Saudi Arabia, more than anyone. And suddenly the same administration that couldn't find Venezuela on map last month is now making noises about liberating it. Please, give me a break. This has Halliburton and ExxonMobil rubbing their hands together like they just found out Santa Claus is real. And don't think for a second the plan stops at war. The plan's very simple. You threaten military action, you destabilize the region, you create chaos. Then you install a nice, friendly puppet government that smiles for the cameras, signs whatever you put in front of them, and says, "Sure, take our oil, we insist." And then boom, ExxonMobil gets a backstage pass to the biggest oil jackpot on earth. It's the same playbook used over and over, again in places that have things America wants. Uranium, lithium, pipelines, and now oil so plentiful it makes Texas look like a kiddie pool. And Trump's acting like this is about the democracy, about justice, about freedom. No, it's about barrels. It's about crude. It's about installing a government that'll answer the phone when Exxon calls instead of telling them to go to hell. And the really sick part is how casual they are about it. Like risking American lives and Venezuelan lives is just another Tuesday. Like the Pentagon's a vending machine where you press B7 and out pops a regime change. Meanwhile, Maduro's sitting there with Russian advisors, Chinese advisors, Iranian advisors, and we're supposed to ignore the fact that this becomes a global powder keg if anyone sneezes wrong. And Trump doesn't care, because for him, conflict's a distraction. It's noise. It's spectacle. And if the end result's a country cracking open its oil reserves like a piñata at Exxon's birthday party, Trump will call it a victory. If this isn't the clearest example yet of corruption, wrapped in nationalism and wrapped in oil-soaked greed, then I don't know what is. And if Trump pushes this any further, we're not talking about threats anymore. We're talking about a president walking right up to the edge of starting a resource war for business partners who don't even hide their excitement. And another powder keg ready to blow. And even more crazy circus stuff from Donald the Delusional One. Trump's willing to release his MRI results, but says, quote, "I have no idea which part of my body was examined." There are moments in politics where you stop and say, wait a second, is this real life or did I accidentally wander into a deleted scene from Idiocracy? And this one right here is at the top of the list. Donald Trump stood in front of reporters, proudly announced he's willing to release his MRI results, but he has no idea what part of his body the MRI was actually for. Think about that. This man is the President of the United States. He has the nuclear codes. He has control of the military. He oversees a global superpower, the leader of the free world. And Donald cannot tell you what part of his own body a giant space-age medical machine just scanned. An MRI is not subtle. It's not a whisper. It's not something you accidentally walk into like a revolving door. The listeners who've had this know this. You know when you're in an MRI, they shove you in a tube the size of a cannoli. The machine makes noises like a robot having a panic attack. And Trump says he has no idea. Was it your brain? Was it your spine? Was it your hip? Your knee? Your left ankle? Your ego? How do you not know? Did Donald think the MRI was a carnival ride? Did he think he won a prize at the end? A stuffed animal and a clean bill of health? Okay, look, I got scanned for something, but honestly, your guess is as good as mine, Donald says. And the best part is Trump says it's like it's normal. Like everybody forgets what part of their body the doctors were checking. No, Donald, normal people know why they went to get an MRI. If a doctor says we're scanning your knee, you don't come out afterwards saying, I have no idea what just happened, but I'm sure it's perfect and it's fine. What makes this even more absurd is that Donald thinks releasing this mystery MRI is some kind of transparency. It's not transparency. If even you don't know what the hell the scan was for. That's like handing over a blank piece of paper and calling it evidence. Here you go, America, a medical document about absolutely nothing. Let's be clear. This isn't a small slip. This isn't a senior moment. This is a man who's bragging he's the healthiest president in history. Perfect MRI, somehow forgetting what part of his body his doctors were worried enough about to shove into a $1 million machine. That's not strength. That's not confidence. That's not stability. That's someone who clearly wasn't told the truth or didn't listen or didn't understand or all three at once. And if Trump really doesn't know why the MRI was taken, then somebody else is making medical decisions for Donald. Someone else is managing his health. Someone else has information he doesn't. And that should terrify every single person in this country, regardless of politics. Because if you can't keep track of your own body, you shouldn't be in charge of this country. A new report shows credit card delinquencies climbing to the highest level since 2012. And it should scare the hell out of anyone who lives in the real world. Because this isn't just a statistic, everyone. This isn't some abstract economic footnote. This is Americans falling behind on their bills, falling behind on gas, falling behind on groceries, falling behind on life. And it's happening while we have a president standing in front of the cameras pretending everything's fine. Fine for who? People who own yachts? People who buy real estate in cash? People who treat $30,000 like it's pocket lint? For everyone else, it's a disaster. Prices keep going up. Paychecks aren't keeping up. Rent is insane. Food is insane. Insurance is insane. And now credit cards are the only way people can stay afloat. And even that is collapsing. When delinquencies spike like this, it means people aren't buying TVs or vacations. It means they're buying cereal, frozen food, diapers, medicine. And they can't pay it back because interest rates are so high, the balance grows faster than the bills. Faster than the bills can be opened. And it gets worse. This isn't happening slowly. It's happening fast. This is what an economy looks like when the middle class is falling through the floor. This is what it looks like when a president gives tax breaks to billionaires and pretends that somehow trickles down to families trying to buy a gallon of milk without taking out a small loan. And here's the truth nobody on the right wants to say out loud. People aren't falling behind because they're irresponsible. They're falling behind because everything costs more and wages haven't moved. People are drowning. People are scared. And the president is telling them, the water is fine. If you're behind on payments, you aren't alone. You aren't a failure. You're living in an economy built to squeeze you, punish you, and then blame you for collapsing under the pressure. And it's only going to get worse as we head into 2026 unless something changes at the top. But with Donald the delusional one in charge, nothing will. Not for the people who need it most. And here's more of Trump's never-ending circus. Retailers are quietly cutting staff after Black Friday, and somehow nobody's talking about it. This should be front page news. This should be the lead story everywhere. Instead, it is buried under holiday ads for peppermint candles and flat screen TVs. Major stores like Target, Macy's, Best Buy, and Kohl's brought in all these seasonal workers for the holidays, and then the second Black Friday ended, they cut their hours down to nothing. People were getting 25 to 30 hours a week. Now they're getting 8 to 12. 8 to 12, people. That isn't a schedule. That's a punishment. That's a suggestion. That says, hey, show up if you feel like it, because either way, we aren't paying you enough to matter. And here's the absurdity. This is happening in December, the one month of the year when people desperately need money. People depend on these hours to pay rent, to pay car payments, to buy gifts for their kids, to not fall behind before the new year. And the companies know that. They know people are counting on this money, and they still cut the hours like they're trimming wrapping paper. We live in a country where the corporations tell you to spend, spend, spend. But the second you need money to survive, they vanish like a cheap department store Santa on a smoke break. It's unbelievable. They lure people in with the promise of holiday work, schedule them heavy for one weekend to survive the Black Friday apocalypse, then slash their hours to the point where the workers would actually make more money collecting loose change from a parking lot. And the worst part is there's no coverage, no headlines, no outrage at mainstream media. Millions of people just lost more than half their income overnight, and the media is busy talking about gingerbread trends. This is real life for real people, people who don't have savings, people who don't have fallbacks, people who needed those hours just to keep the lights on in December. And the companies doing it will brag about their holiday profits in January, while the workers they used are trying to figure out how to stretch 8 hours of pay into a month of bills. And here's the reality. If Donald Trump's economy was actually strong, companies wouldn't be slicing hours to the bone. They'd be expanding shifts, begging for workers, and desperately trying to keep up with demand. Seasonal workers wouldn't be told, sorry, we don't need you. They'd be called in for overtime. When the middle class can't afford to shop, businesses shrink. When wages don't keep up, spending collapses. And when a president breaks the economy and calls it success, this is exactly what trickles down. Pain for the workers and profits for the corporations. And finally, let's close the tent on Donald's circus of chaos, at least for this episode. Here's something everyone should need to know. Shipping delays are starting earlier than normal this year, and of course they are, because nothing says Christmas in America like panic sweating over a package that absolutely nobody asked for, but you're sending it anyway out of guilt and social obligation. UPS and FedEx are already warning retailers they're hitting capacity limits, and it's barely December, not mid-December, not the week of Christmas. Nope, right now, before half of you have even found the box of ornaments you swore you put in the hall closet. Here's why it matters, everyone. If you don't order your gifts by December 10th through 12th, they may not show up on time. That means if you have a cousin, an aunt, a nephew, or some random coworker you barely know, but somehow feel obligated to buy a scented candle for, you'd better start clicking now, because in a few days that package won't be arriving for Christmas. It'll be arriving sometime around Valentine's Day, when everyone's already forgotten who gave them what. Let's be honest, half the stuff we're shipping doesn't need to be shipped. We're out here mailing people sweaters they'll never wear, gadgets they'll never open, and gift baskets filled with food they're allergic to. We're paying $20 to overnight something that's going to live in a drawer until the end of time. But we do it because it's the holidays, and nothing says love like sending someone an obligation they now have to pretend to be excited about. So here's the bottom line, everyone. If you care about someone, get that gift early. If you don't care about them, but you're afraid of looking like a jerk, still get the gift early. And if you're thinking maybe I shouldn't buy anyone anything this year, congratulations. You just became the healthiest person emotionally and financially in America. Order now or expect Christmas to arrive fashionably late. Very late. Okay, that's your Monday Fallout, a little bit longer episode. Hope you enjoyed. You know how to reach me. I've given you my email address, my toll-free number multiple times. It's up to you to use them. If you'd like to comment about anything I've talked about in this episode, or just give me your opinion, or just if you would like to say hello, that would be nice to hear from some of you. I could use some love. Okay? Please don't forget my show streaming live this Tuesday, 9:15 p.m. It's interactive with others. Sunday morning's live stream was all new faces, no friends, family, or listeners from my podcast. And if you'd like to contribute with a small donation to the podcast before the holidays, I have a link below each description of every episode. And I've said this multiple times, this is purely optional. But every little donation to the podcast truly helps. This is The World Gone Mad. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. I'll be back Wednesday. Until then, Wolfpack listeners, remain skeptical, stay focused, but most of all, stay hopeful.